Okay, so as far as logistics go, I think coronavirus has probably pushed, well, it's definitely pushed, let's be honest, global networking systems to their absolute limits. Now, this summer for a month, I worked at FedEx, and this was back in the, let's say June, month of June. I worked for FedEx, and in that time, I worked the graveyard shift, unloading boxes, sometimes scanning boxes, and doing some other stuff. And it was a lot because we had such an incredible amount of packages coming in. It was an easy day for us. Unloading would be 12,000 packages. That would be a very easy day for us. Generally, it was in the 15 to 18 range. And if it was a lot, the one time I think there was maybe 24,000 packages that had to be moved during our shift. And it sounds like a ton of packages, but you're assigned a certain amount of time and you get it done. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that numbers went from 8,000 packages a day being a regular day to it being 15 to 18,000, which is just an absurd uptick. So you take that in just the shipping and transport industries, just say FedEx, say that average is the same for everybody else, for Amazon's shipping, for UPS's shipping, for the postal, everything. Just assume that, and then put that same kind of strain onto other businesses, but in different formats. Say a restaurant now has to deal with the logistical nightmare of how am I going to get people here? How am I going to get seats? How am I going to get patrons to come over and provide a similar number of orders so that we can fulfill the required amount of profit to stay above our expenses and everything. And then you throw that everywhere. And then you simplify that down even further and you put it upon students and living situations, and you have a conundrum for everyone. Coronavirus is obviously a terrible, terrible thing that's just sweeping the globe. And thankfully I got my test back negative, and I'm just, taking the precautionary time now to make sure I'm 100% healthy and not exposing anyone. And I just look around and I see such odd situations. I lived over at Vall Hall. That I'm probably going to end my lease there following this fall. It's just and it's a strange situation because through all of quarantine and all of spring break we go, and then it seems like okay, we're gonna come back. It's just spring break. It's gonna be a hiatus, and then boom, you're staying home for the rest of the year. And that's how it's been. Obviously there's some in-person classes and we're back to living on campus to an extent, but it's nowhere near what it has been. And the thing that's vexing is that for the entirety of the duration of our being at home, I held out pretty well. I handled the situation pretty well. I think I was able to cope with the new climate and circumstances because I had my family, and because in the back of my mind I was thinking we'll be back in the fall. And then we came back in the fall, and that's when everything hit me because I moved in, first day it's like, yeah, I'm back. And then you look around and the streets are completely empty. You don't see cars moving up and down. There's no one walking even on the sidewalks. And you just say to yourself, this is the strangest move-in I have ever had. This is surreal. This is like a Twilight Zone episode. It's a strange, strange place to be. And it's just, you look around at everyone that's, you're supposed to wear a mask, and Chancellor Plowman has put in place these very strict regulations, and if people aren't abiding by the rules, they can be suspended. They can have severe repercussions to their actions of irresponsibility. And now with all the greater restrictions that have come down, I just got an email this past week that said surveillance is going to be put in place, and basically it's any campus resident that is living within the dormitories, on campus housing, cameras are going to be watching them 24/7, just to make sure that they follow the mask requirements and social distancing and all that stuff. Obviously, the cameras extend to the elevators, stairwells, and lobby areas. It's not like they're in your room peering at you as you sleep, but still, it's wild, the restrictions that are coming in place, and you have to wonder, why are we even given the option at this point to live on campus housing? Because the restrictions are innumerable. The gym for the dormitory which I live at is closed. The main area where you can go watch movies, play pool, we haven't been, they took away the pool cues and everything. You can't rent that stuff. You can't rent that stuff. You haven't been able to the entire semester, but now that entire area is closed off. Any public area that people can go to closed off. Right now, the outdoor patio is still open, but I don't foresee that lasting for much longer. And it's just so strange because they're putting these regulations and restrictions in, yet we are all still living together. I don't think there are any one-bedroom layouts for Volunteer Hall. I know there are some two-bedroom layouts, and I know there are 3. I'm living in a 4, and 4 is that's the most common one. Majority of the rooms in Volunteer Hall are 4-person bedrooms, or 4-person apartments rather. And what you see with that is, yes, people have their own individual rooms. However, there is a living space within that apartment that is for everyone. There is a kitchen in that living space that is for everyone. And it's very comical to me and ironic that they're taking away all these things, yet the most dangerous areas are still open, which is the intrapersonal areas where we're communicating with one another, where we're running into one another without masks because we're in our own apartment. We don't think, oh, I need a mask right now. And it's so bizarre. It's so strange and bizarre that we are still allowed to live in these dormitories, that they haven't pulled the plug yet. And it's just, I don't understand it. The logistics are crazy because you look at apartment situations, and I'm sure before we knew how severe coronavirus was going to be, everyone would have had a different living accommodation in terms of people who are living in residence halls. I know I would have, because when I signed up for this lease, it was not as severe as it is now. We had not been booted from campus yet. It was only mumblings of it, and it was in a different continent. So it's just like, I don't need to worry about that. And then it comes here. And then it's like, okay, I don't need to be extremely worried about it. And then pandemic. And it's like, oh boy. And now it's kind of like you signed the lease, and yes, you could have backed out of it over summer, when there's a whole confirmation process and everything. But at that point, basically every apartment's taken, okay? Every on-campus apartment, every good student housing that's, on campus in a walking distance, gone. So I just figured, hey, let's stick with Fall Hall. Let's weather the storm. It's going to be fine. I'm sure it's going to be fine. While in the back of my mind, I've got a little voice telling me, hey, they can kick you out like that. They can change anything they want on you like that. And it's frustrating. And I know campus, they can't say, hey, we don't recommend that you live, on campus this year. We recommend that, you get off-campus housing or you go through a private third party or something like that. They can't do that because they need the money, because they can't actively sway people from coming back, because then that hurts their bottom line. But at the same time, as an institution that emphasizes safety of students, staff, and everybody else in between, it's just very funny that we're even back in the first place right now, because it seems like, from what I've heard from professors that I have, from friends that I have who are in the know, we're prolonging the inevitable right now. And that inevitable is campus closing down, and us reverting back to completely online curriculum, which a majority of us are already at. I have one in person. I had one that was hybrid, and then it went to completely online. Because the professor got scared, rightfully so. And it's bizarre. It really is. I can't emphasize that enough. And the long, rambly point out of all of this is, who are you supposed to look to out of all the academic institutions in terms of who is carrying out the furtherance of education properly during, pandemic era education and learning? And I think there's not really a good answer to this, because when you try to supplement, in-person education for the online curriculum, it's very, very difficult to have the same kind of in-depth analysis and discussion. At least that's my viewpoint, which I think at this point could be considered as a professional opinion, since I am now at Zoom University semester number 2, um, it's weird. It's weird to look at who out of all these people is right, because all the colleges that went back in person are now either completely reverted to online, or there's extreme pushback from schools and from not schools, but students and parents and a ton of other people. And it's there's no right answer, obviously, because everything is in a gray area. But I feel like it is a bit disingenuous to have had people come back to campus and then, I don't want to say haphazardly put down restrictions, but definitely, after the horses have left the barn, kind of put down restrictions and just say that, hey, we're going to keep you safe, and we're going to keep campus open, and and then there's always a but at the end of that. But we're taking this ability to go to T-Rex, which is now closed for what I understand to be 2 weeks, or have this amenity from your apartment taken away. It's just one thing after the other until we get down to there being only one option left, and that's us just going home. And I'm really at a loss for why, besides obviously monetary gain, why the university didn't just say, hey, stay home in the first place. Thank you for listening.